Hello, everyone, and welcome back to an episode of the Alex Beyond Thoughts podcast with me, Alex, as your host. As always, I am not in my usual location. So if you think there's like a difference in sound or there's an echo or anything, I'm really sorry. But yeah, this is where we're recording today. So I wanted to talk to you about basically a bunch of advice I've been giving lately to so many different people. So I'm very much an advice giver. A lot of people come to me for my thoughts and my opinions and working through some things. So, with my close friends and people in my life, I've been giving a lot of advice on change recently, and specifically like making decisions about your future. I think maybe I'm a bit of a thought leader in the space because I make so many decisions so publicly with my businesses and like travel and everything. And I'm very vocal about the decisions and like the life I'm creating for myself. So it kind of makes sense that people come to me and ask these questions. So basically, one thing I wanted to talk to you about today is how to choose the right decision for your next step. And this is when you have multiple options or multiple things in your mind and you're wondering, should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? I want to do this, but I also want to do that. And they're like conflicting things. This is how I believe we should make decisions about what to do next, essentially. So for me, that process looks like, firstly, getting clear on what I feel like I want. And by feel, I mean in my body, not my emotions. What do I want? What sounds like a good idea? What sets me on edge? What gets me excited? And actually tune into my body and not my brain about what choices I should make. So this can look like for me sitting in a quiet room and deliberately thinking through all of my options. And I notice in my body what changes, what gets me shifting and uncomfortable, what do I accidentally drift off into a tangent about and create like this little dream in my mind. And obviously lots of people aren't very visual people, so I can get that that might be hard for you, but for me, I'm a very visual person. I can imagine 1,000 different lifetimes in an hour. So yeah, I get really isolated within myself. I have very minimal distractions. I try not to pick up my phone. The most I'll probably have is a notepad and a pen, and I just get really clear in my body about what feels good. So recently, I say recently, a while ago, but a very prominent decision for now is my next travel destination. So in my body, the thought of going to Australia or Asia first both felt really good in my mind, and I was really struggling to pick where to go first. And then other factors definitely came into this, but in my body, I knew I felt a real calling to go back to Asia. And in my gut, like it just felt like a good decision. I didn't, as much as I literally yearn for Australia and I'm so excited to go there, I feel in my body that it's not quite time, and the time that I have chosen feels like the right time in my body. Like I don't feel discomfort, I don't feel nerves, I don't feel scared. I just feel like, yeah, that's it. And I'm trusting my body to know that that feels like a good time and the aligned time for me. And I'm saying this because for me personally, like I think the way my chart goes with all like the astrology shit, it's a bit woo-woo for some people, so I'm not going to go heavily into it. I don't really know it myself. I'm very gut led, and my gut very much aligns to, I want to say, my future, my destiny, whatever you want to call it, whatever the word is. My gut really aligns to that, and my body and my gut will know something before I do, and I always trust it, regardless. Like down to the scary scenarios that happen, I'm like, I trusted my gut here, and this is where it's led me. In a good way, I mean. So yeah, getting really clear in my body and what is aligned and what is right, and kind of ignoring my brain to a certain extent, because I can talk myself out of anything as much as I can talk myself into anything. So I have to kind of gauge and bide my time with certain things, because in a moment something will feel really wrong for my gut because there are other external factors that is not even in my realm of like comprehension, that mean making that decision right then is not correct, it's not the right time. I won't choose the thing I'm meant to be choosing in this period. So I will just put off a decision if it feels like that in my body. And logically, I know that that's the thing I want. But there's also like, it's strange to describe it. There's a difference between something that is just not right because I feel it totally, that it's just not the right decision. Like staying in a corporate job, like I have physical reactions to the thought of staying in a physical job, staying in a corporate job, because it's just not right for me. And that feeling is very different between deciding between Australia or Asia, because they are both things on my path. They're both things that I need and want in my life. But essentially, it is like, yeah, there's just a different feeling. And once you get used to this intuition kind of building piece, you'll get to know exactly what I'm talking about. But in the early stages, the choice between Australia and Asia was very minimal, but my gut was leading me to Asia first. And now it feels like such a fluid, easy decision. On the path to Asia is absolutely resistanceless. Whereas I think there would have been a lot of resistance building to Australia for the time frame that I'm doing Asia in, if you see what I mean. I feel like I'm going around the houses here, but you get what I mean essentially. So with choosing like a life-altering decision of, am I going to move to Australia? Am I going to up and move to Edinburgh? Like, am I going to try and apply for a grad scheme? Like, whatever the decision is that's going to alter your life, you have to get really clear in your body what feels good. Not in your emotions, not in your mind, not in your thinking brain, but what in your body feels like it's the correct thing to be doing right now. And what feels like it's wrong. Like, as much as what it feels right, you can tell a lot by what feels completely wrong. So like run through a list of scenarios and like thoughts and decisions you've been trying to make recently, and run through the list of, okay, well I could move to Edinburgh on the 1st of December 2024, and I could do I could apply for the grad scheme in January of 2026. Like go through these processes and timeframes and scenarios of what the things you are thinking that you want, and see how it feels in yourself. What feels like a good decision, what feels like a bad decision in your body. And then you can ask your emotions, and then you can ask your brain for its input. But when you cut off that gut connection and that like internal feeling, you end up making decisions with your brain and your logical mind that probably in 6 months' time you maybe wouldn't have made for yourself, because it's just a spur of the emotion feeling decision. It's like a spur of like the mindset pattern you've got at the moment. That's where the decision is coming from. Or you're doing it out of stress and out of fear and out of lack. So instead of choosing to up and move to Australia, you choose Edinburgh because it creates less fear and it's less scary, and it feels like it might be the right decision at this time because the logistics make more sense and it's just less hard. So instead of going to Australia, which is your actual dream, it is your gut reaction to be the thing that you want and the thing that you need. You've ignored that because it feels scary in that moment, because you've made a decision in that moment with your thinking mind and your emotional state at the time and your mindset at the time. When actually in 6 months' time, when it gets to moving to Edinburgh, you're like, why the hell did I choose this? Because this doesn't make sense. And my gut is telling me no. This is what I'm talking about. So that is my first thing. Definitely think on all of this, but get clear on what your body is telling you is the right choice. The second thing, I think, is the power of the questions you're asking yourself. So when you are asking your thinking mind and the collection of thoughts that you've probably already built around this thing that you're that you're thinking about right now, because all of this is going to be sparking something for you. What is it that's holding you back? And I want you to write down a list of literally down to like, I would have to change the almond milk I drink in the morning. Like, what down to the nittiest grittiest things is holding you back from making this choice and making this decision? And how important are those list of things? So if it's you want to move to Edinburgh, but you can't take, I don't know, you can't take your grandma, and that is a non-negotiable for you, that you have to see her every weekend without fail, and if you don't, your life is unimaginably less enjoyable, then of course the priority is not Edinburgh. The priority is that time and that connection with your grandma. Like, this is what I'm saying. Prioritize these things. So of the list of things that are holding you back and fear, what of those things are non-negotiable? What are the things that you absolutely will compromise your happiness for if you choose this thing? And alternative to that, create a list of everything that excites you about it. And you'll very much begin to see where your fears are playing out and how important the fears you've got, whether they logically are great or bad, you'll see the power they have. And you'll also see the power of the list of excitement and the list of like everything you want from this choice. So if it's a grad scheme, what are all the things that excite you about getting into this grad scheme, about doing the course or the job, or about where you're going to live and this, that, and the other? Create a list of everything that excites you and everything that you're fearful of, and prioritize that list. What are non-negotiables on your excitement list? Because if it's like non-negotiable that you get to hop on trains and go around to different parts of the cities in the country that you're looking at, if that's a non-negotiable for you, that you have to travel and experience other things in a different culture, then you know, even if you don't make the choice to do this thing in your life that you're choosing otherwise, you have to make that a non-negotiable in that life, because otherwise you're going to regret the decision and you're going to feel unhappy anyway. Same with your non-negotiable of your fears and your lack and the things that are worrying you. If it's you have to speak to your grandma once a week minimum, then you'd have to schedule time in the grad scheme life that every week on a Saturday at 1:00, you're going to have an hour uninterrupted time on FaceTime with your grandma. Do you see what I mean here? Like, you have to get really clear on what is actually important to you in life, what is really scaring you that you're going to lose, what you are really fearful of getting, and what you're fearful of losing. And once you have this like really defined and detailed list, it's not so much in your head anymore. You're not having to hold on to all of these things and think about whether you're going to lose the almond milk, whether you're going to lose the FaceTime with your grandma, whether you're going to lose the connection with your best friends. Like, it doesn't have to be so in your head anymore, and you're not holding it all in your brain, worrying about it and getting excited about it, because it's actually written down, and you get to rationalize and be logical and be emotional about the things that you are fearful of and the things that you're excited for. And you also then just get a very definitive list of what's important to you, because that list tells you a lot about yourself, and it tells you a lot about what is important to you, even if you don't consciously realize that those things are important to you. So if your trip to Costa once a week with your best friend is a non-negotiable for you, but you can make it a coffee shop date on two sides of the world, but you both FaceTime and have that time still together, that gets to be okay too. But you wouldn't have known that, and you wouldn't have made it safe for yourself if you had no idea that a non-negotiable for you is that coffee shop date with your best friend. And you wouldn't have been able to make it safe for yourself because you just wouldn't have known it. So that is my second thing. My third thing is to just be brutally honest with yourself. And this is with your thinking mind again. So we all get caught up in like spiraling with thoughts and like, what's for the better, what's for the worst, am I making the right decision, how am I supposed to know, or just like the classic phrase, I don't know anything. Get brutally honest with yourself, because 9 times out of 10 you do know, you're just really scared to admit it, and you're scared of what comes next once you finally acknowledge the thing that you're avoiding. And here's your permission piece, because once you know the answer, you actually don't have to do anything. Like, there is no rule or law saying that something you've thought of in your mind and you know in your body, there's no rule or law that means you have to do something about it. But the likelihood is you probably will, because you are actually aware of it. And that's why most of us just don't think deeply about any of these things. And it's easier to say, I don't know. And it's easier to not think about it and to give up after 5 or 10 minutes, or to talk about it for like an hour with your friends and then never think about it again. Because it's just easier not to know, because then you don't have to do anything. Then there's no responsibility back on you. Then there's no expectation. But I'm here to say that you don't actually have to do anything with the knowledge. You can just know for a fact that your dream is Australia and never live it. Like, that actually just does get to be okay if you're happy with doing that for your life. Most people probably wouldn't be very happy doing that with their life, but like, you're not living your life by other people's standards. You're not living your life by other people's wants and needs and happiness. You just have to make it okay for yourself. And if you're a person that thinks, well, Australia would have been great, but I honestly just can't be bothered, then sure, you do that, babes. Like, that is absolutely a choice you get to make. And you get to say not right now. Even if you know the answer and you know that Australia is the answer, or you know that Edinburgh is the answer, or you know the grad scheme is the answer, you can know that and just not do anything with it. Not for now, at least, anyway. Obviously, I'd encourage you to. Like, I'm not saying put your life on hold because you don't want to make a decision, but the not knowing is sometimes the most agonizing part, because it's this really weird grey middle where nothing is moving forward, but nothing is moving backwards, and you're just stuck in this transitional phase because you've not made any decisions for a length of time, whether that's a week or 2 years. You can sit in this like weird dimension of never moving forward or backwards and never actually making a decision, and it's so painful because it's a constant reoccurring thought of what happens next. So you can just know what happens next because you've actually deeply thought about it and decided, but you've not decided to do anything with it yet. So that kind of takes away some of the fear of actually diving deep into this work and into this discovery of what you actually want and what choices you're going to make next and what your future is going to look like. I think I'm going to wrap up there because I feel like I don't want to make it too complicated. So essentially, get very clear on what's happening in your body. Get very clear on what your gut is telling you, and get very clear on what your subconscious feels like is the right thing to do. Secondly, ask the right questions, and specifically ask yourself, what am I fearful of? What am I going to lose? And what do I lack here? And also, what am I the most excited about? What am I going to gain? What's going to feel good? Like, what am I going to enjoy? That, and finally, be radically honest with yourself, because the only person that you're actually hiding from is yourself. And the only person that you're torturing with this, realistically, is yourself. So stop sitting in this grey, stop sitting in this painful middle of indecision and saying I don't know and not ever moving forward or backwards. Just make a decision from all of this, honesty with yourself, and then you get to decide what to do with it. But getting clear on what the thing actually is that you don't know about takes so much of the pressure off. So that is all I want to say today. And I hope it's clear, because I very much get excited about these things and I can see it and I can picture it in my mind of what I'm saying and what I mean. But to others, it's not always super clear. So if you have any questions, absolutely dive into my DMs, let me know. We'll talk through it some more. But that has been me. I am so happy that you've got to this point. But I will see you